Hello, hello. Is this thing on? All right. We're live. It's just me. I tweeted out like right now. Hey there, Amit Gupta. Yeah, so I did what I don't normally do. I normally give like a heads up, but I was like, you know what? I just kind of want to just stream like right now. So that's what we're doing. So it might be slow going here, getting everybody in the chat. But yeah, I woke up and I was like, I really don't want to stream today. I got a lot of work to do. And then I was just like, you know what? I think I just want to chill. Esser, I hope that's how you say your name. That was funny, your tweet the other day. Esser. Yeah, when I like recorded that podcast about being super overwhelmed and like everything sucks. And then the next podcast was like, oh, everything's great. And you followed along. That was cool. Adrian in the house. We got the Adrian. Sweet. Asif. I really need to like learn how to pronounce non-standard American names better. Eric, Crodux, Cloven. Hey everybody. People are rolling in. How's it going? How's your Friday? I'm just chilling here. Actually, I knocked out some good work, and I don't know. I'm just in one of those zones where like I'm like in between tasks. So I was like, this is kind of the perfect opportunity to stream, because we could just do nothing on this stream. We can just like go wherever we want to go. But of course I have like a few things that I would love your opinion on. Relaunch to update. Let's close this tab. Let me see what I got going on here. Should I do that? Oh no, I don't want to do that because YouTube is in Chrome right now. So the stream, I don't know what would happen to the stream. It'd probably be fine. Probably fine. Yeah, that's funny. I don't even see, my brain doesn't see this, but everyone else's does apparently. When do I complete the UI components? Oh, that's going to be a good long while. Yeah, it's going to be a big one. Joey is in the house, here to hang out and listen in while I work on stuff. Nice. That's the vibe, man. That's the vibe today. I don't have like a big let's go deep on something, although we might. I'm just kind of picturing chilling out, talking about random stuff. That's the vibe. Absolutely. So yeah, hit me up. I don't know. Somebody, we can just hang out and greet people, but we can also, I don't know, say hey, say where you're from, ask me a question. I can show you stuff I've been working on. Yeah, I got that new Livewire request bus that I'm pretty excited about. Let me just kind of show you a little bit of that code. And, man, hold on. I got to open up the chat again. Okay. I have this shortcut key to like hide everything else except the window I'm working on and center it. And I hit it so that it got rid of this thing, but it also closed everything else. Currently doing some refactoring, especially with nested components, now that I'm migrating my apps to Livewire 3. Nice. Well, this actually has to kind of do with nested components, or at least the ability to nest components made this feature way harder, but I'm really glad it exists now. If you have like some component, like, I don't know, parent, so we'll call it. If you have a parent component and then you have a child component that has a reactive property, so if you have like that reactive attribute on a property inside here, every time, let me think about this. Every time this component goes to the server, it has to also send a payload for this component in case this component changes that property. It needs to update the child on the server. So by default in Livewire 3, when I launched it, and up until yesterday, all requests, and even still, I didn't tag it, all requests are bundled. So if you have if you submit a request for like 4 components on the page, like other component, and they all happen at the exact same time, which happens when you add lazy to something, or you have wire pull, or you have event listeners, they'll all bundle to the network at the same time. But we don't want that. We want, like, for lazy, basically anybody who's lazy loading a bunch of components on the page wants to isolate those network requests. So it's like, no problem. I'll just write some code to not bundle things for lazy, but you always need these 2 bundled. So we need like all this logic to not bundle this, but do bundle that. And it got pretty wild, but I'm really happy with it. Joey Ferrugio is here. Yes. Such a fan. Joey, you got a fan in the house. Look at that. Yeah, so this request, let me just kind of flash to you just this thing, and then we'll get out of code land. So this is the new request system. There's a commit bus. So everything inside here is really straightforward. Like send request, it just like gets a payload. It makes a fetch, like literally a fetch request, like await fetch to the server to get, your Livewire stuff. But this commit bus is where all the magic happens. It's pretty crazy. It keeps a pile of updates for each component, and then it has pools of updates. So there's like a ton of logic that, we did a stream. I don't know if anybody was here for that stream where we tried to write the isolate code using the existing structure. We got kind of far, but we got blocked on a few things. Oh, actually, I should go back and test some of the things that we found broken with the implementation we had. But now there's this concept of commit buses, the commit bus, and then individual commits. That's like its own class with all this stuff. And then there's these pools, and these are pools of commits that go to the server as independent payloads. And there's like really cool hooks in this now, where when Livewire goes to do the pooling, it corrals commits into pools. Inside corral commits into pools. It basically asks a pool if it should hold a certain commit, and that commit can have isolate, and it can return like, hey, I don't want to be held by other pools, so return false. But I have these hooks where I'm saying commit pooling, pass the commits, and then I can, from other features, basically change. Then I have commit pooled. I can change how things get pooled. So I rewrote the support props and modelables to basically use this pooling feature to be like, when a commit is pooling, make sure all its children are committed. When it's pooled, make sure that all the children are co-located inside their own pool, whatever. I don't know if anybody's following that, but that's what needed to happen. Was I needed a new concept of pools. The Bambino? Oh, do you hear that? Little schnutz. He's being funky today, man. My wife is like, had it up to here with him already, and it's like not late in the day at all. He's being a little schnutz. Utsav, hey, how's it going? So yeah, so that's request pooling that I'm pretty excited about. I do have a question for you all. I'm working on something. You can't stream at the same time as Neovim. Yeah, does anybody use Neovim? Neovim is like the hot thing for people who are good, better programmers than me. I mean, you see Jess Archer and you're like, holy crap, I should learn Neovim. But then it's like, I don't know. I tried that once before with the Laracast course on Neovim, and I don't know, just like anytime. Yeah, Mateus, she does use it. The Primogen, yeah, all the good programmers use Neovim. But, Taylor still uses Sublime, I think. So I'm always like, I don't have to feel that bad. Taylor uses Sublime, and I don't even think he uses Xdebug. He's like this wizard level programmer that uses these tools that just to kind of like show everybody that like you don't need all that stuff. Just be a good programmer. Utsav, I am not coming to Laracon, India, unfortunately. I forget the date of it, but I think I'm traveling. We usually go to Florida for like a few months. And I think I'm traveling for that, but no VS Code. Amvim is best. Yeah, VS Code. Yeah, I use Amvim, which is pretty good. I think Amvim gives me some issues. I think it has some internal stuff. Like if my VS Code window stays open too long, saving a file starts to take a long time. And then sometimes I hit paste and VS Code just freezes for like 5 seconds. And it's so obnoxious. And then I restart VS Code and it's all fixed. So I feel like there's some sort of memory leak. I'm blaming it on Amvim. That could be wrong, but I feel like it's Amvim because I've dealt with kind of similar things with Amvim. PHP Storm, yeah. Never heard of it. Sounds cool. 23 and 24 March. Yeah, I am traveling then, I'm pretty sure. Utsav, unfortunately. I would love to make it someday. Yeah, reload window at that time. Yeah, do you hit that too with AmVim? That's annoying. It's annoying that VS Code doesn't have a good Vim mode. Have they improved that? Vim. Where's Vim at? Configure. How do you configure stuff? If I ever configure stuff, I do the JSON one, but let's see. User settings. Where's like prep, just the visual one? Okay. Vim. Huh. Yeah, AmVim. Like, where the heck is VS Code? Oops, wrong window. Where's VS Code Vim mode? Like, that is just like, what? Does VS Code have a Vim mode? Yeah, VS Code Vim. I don't know. Maybe it's time to try one of these again. This has like 10 zillion installs. When I first tried it, I didn't like it. Yeah, but maybe I should give it another go. AmVim VS Code. Let's just see how many installs this has. Maybe it's... So yeah, that has like 2,000 installs. Like, this is nothing compared to the big one. But this is how I feel about the PHP unit extension. Like, better PHP unit has made it past... Like, look at this. 5-star. Oh, I guess there's only 2 things. 4 stars for this. When's the last time this was updated? 2011, 2023. Pretty recent. But that could just be like some NPM conflict update. And this was last updated in 2022. I don't know. Maybe it's time to try VS Code Vim again, folks. I did see some people doing Advent of Code live on Vim so fast. Yeah. Is anybody doing Advent of Code? I haven't done it in probably 3 or 4 years. It always gets to keep an eye out for Jesse Late's Vim course. Yeah, for sure. I don't know what these are, but Advent of Code. Yeah. So it turns out the Advent of Code guy works at a local company in my city that I've 2 brother-in-laws of mine work at this company, and the Advent of Code guy is the forget his name, but he's the like principal engineer there. And I just like texted him. I was like, do you guys know this guy? He works at your company. And they're like, oh yeah, he shows up in some meetings sometimes. He's a high up, but I was just like, what? He might even live in my city. It's possible. Only one of the topics will be for VS Code users who want to use some Vim. Yeah, I mean, that's me pretty much. I don't want to go like all in on Vim, but thank you, Coulter. I appreciate that. Esther does the Advent of Code for the fun. Yeah, my experience with Advent of Code is like, well, one, I don't really have the time with the little baby boy running around like I used to, because I used to like spend way too much time on it. You know, you start with the first few days, and I don't know, at least back then it was like pretty tough, but really engaging and addicting. And you're like, oh my gosh, this is exercising my programming in ways that I don't normally exercise it. It's so much fun. But then by like day, it's probably 7, you're like, okay, I can't spend 8 hours on this challenge because I'm just too dumb to like do it in an hour or 2. So hopefully Advent of Code actually kind of dumbed it down a little bit, because I bet their fall off is just huge. Like, how many people... This happens all the time, every year. Tons of people go, I did this. It's like, I'm going to do a public repo of every day of Advent of Code. People like stream it, whatever. And they conk out before day 10 almost every time. Yeah, that's Advent of Code. Advent of burn all your time in December and still get burnt out on something that doesn't pay you money. Super fun. I'm not slamming it. It's the most fun thing a programmer can do, and it's so well done. But it definitely is like... who's got time for that? Was it harder this year? That's crazy. They get freaking hard. Like, it is definitely the kind of, which is good. Like, that's what makes it so cool, is it's like real challenging algorithmic-y stuff that a lot of us just app programmers, information system programmers aren't doing a lot. We're not like doing like matrix math and crap to like, you know, solve problems. We're like inserting stuff in databases and adding if statements, you know. So it is cool. And it is a cool way to exercise your chops in like a language you're not as familiar with. But again, that even makes it twice as hard. And then it's going to take you forever. Yeah. All right. So that's Advent of Code. All right. So if we're just hanging out, new stream just started. That's right. Layer streamers. Oh, I retweet it. Okay. Yeah, there's one problem that I'm kind of smashing my head against a wall on that I want to talk to you guys about. What was the hardest thing to build in Livewire? The protection of variables between server and client seems like it would be challenging. That's a really good question. The hardest thing to build in Livewire. Oh, it's a good question. There's a lot. I'll just kind of tell you the hardest ones. The whole synthesizer, like support synthesizers. No, I don't even know. Yeah. The whole synth system, which is the Livewire's 3. Yeah, exactly what you're saying. Like basically taking public properties that are PHP properties, getting them into like JavaScript safe types and bringing them back into PHP and re-serializing them. Like the first version of Livewire ever just did this. It was like serialize the property, this foo. And then when it came back to the server, it was like unserialize this foo. But this isn't sustainable for 10 million reasons. So there's this whole custom system called synthesizers in Livewire to handle like if you have an array, like there's an array synth that knows how to basically serialize an array, and it's all deeply nested. So you could have an array of arrays with collections and carbon instances, and it all works together. This was probably the brainiest thing that I've done in a while, and it took me a long time. The request system with the buses and the pools that I just did, that's a tough system. I've had to rewrite that probably 10 times over the course of the past 4 years. Those are really complex parts. I'm trying to think. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the lifecycle stuff, but I would say the synthesizers, and then of course the front end that's the real hard part. Like the front end, all the Alpine stuff, that is even just X4 in Alpine took me so long to get right. Like, look at this. This is not simple at all because it's super optimized for updates and all sorts of stuff. It's just, it's brutal. And the morph system is, I would say morph, X4 transitions are gnarly as hell. Like, I barely understand the transition system anymore. It's so complicated because it has to be so robust. So transitions, X4 loops, any morph DOM stuff. The morph DOM is probably the biggest one of everything in all of Livewire, and then the synthesizer stuff. Yeah, there's a lot, but those are the big ones that are definitely like, yeah, push my boundaries as a programmer for sure. Great question. That's a good question. Musafar, hey, Musafar. Good to see you, man. Utsav, conditionable fields display, which is sync and backend and UI both. Conditionable fields display. I don't know what that means exactly, but anything syncing backend and UI both is like not easy. View transition support when? I am going to kick that can as far as I can kick it. Yeah, I'm because I also like I didn't want to add any transition system for Wire Navigate. Whoops. Yeah, so I added Wire Navigate to the doc, so we could just kind of look at that here. When you do Wire Navigate, it shows you that little loading bar at the top and whatnot. But if you wanted these pages to transition between each other, like one kind of slide out and slide in, I mean, I have transition scaffolding. I could do that, but I just removed the commented out transition stuff in the Wire Navigate system that I kind of left in there just in case. But that's one that's like, it's going to just take so much maintenance, and view transitions exist. So I wanted to wait till like that dust had settled. So I'm still kind of waiting until that dust is settled, and then maybe I'll introduce it, but I don't know. Auto animate is so good. Yeah. Auto animate is awesome. I'd like to like do some kind of plugin for it at some point. If you guys don't know Jeffrey just did a thing on it. Auto animate is pretty awesome, although I used it for something and quickly realized like, oh, this is good, but there are lots of times where you want to customize it a little. And so it might just be like, it might just have to be a community package for stuff. But yeah, it definitely solves some big problems. Wait, why didn't that auto animate? Add? Where's the animations at? I don't see any animations. Auto animate. I don't know why it's not animating. Sort? It's not animating. Is that just me? Oh, I have reduce motion enabled? Funny. How do I get that thing on here? Command Shift P, reduce. Emulate, reduce motion. Weird. I'm really surprised I have reduced motion on. Settings, Chrome. Reduce motion. I don't even know how to change that, but whatever. Prefers reduce motion is on. I don't know. That's why it's not working. That's weird. Wiretap is still on the roadmap. Yeah, I'm going to hold myself to it because I demoed it at Laracon. But the thing I've been telling everybody is I want to get the screencast out. There's just so many higher priority things right now, unfortunately. But it will happen. I just can't tell you when. I know. A lot of people ask about it, and I definitely am slightly ashamed. It would be in DevTools, says Chris Morrell. Where in DevTools, man? So, yeah, where is it? You know where it is? Prefers reduce motion? I don't know. Reduce motion in Mac settings. Okay. Preferences. Motion. Reduce motion. Oh, I probably put that on so that... Oh, funny. Yeah, I probably put that on actually for that Laracon talk so that when I switch workspaces, it kind of like fades in and fades out instead of slides to the right and to the left. So interesting. All right, now let's see. There we go. That's nice. That's really nice. And that's not an easy thing to do, animate stuff like that. That's not easy. So that's pretty cool. Pretty cool. Yeah, Wiretap, I'm slightly ashamed. By the way, hey, Chris Morrell. How's it going? Slightly ashamed about Wiretap for sure because I did the thing I try not to do, which is launch something that doesn't exist or tease something that doesn't exist. Like Livewire V3, I kind of did this, and then I went and worked on it and released it at the next Laracon. And I don't want Wiretap to be the same thing, but I am like, I want to change this about myself so that things I'm launching are actually launchable in the next like week or two. Yeah, so that's kind of my goal, is to reverse that trend of mine that I've established with demoing Livewire 3 at that winter Laracon online, and then now Wiretap at Live Laracon. And the thought process is like, oh man, this is so cool. I'm going to build this. Oh, it's really cool. It's going to be so powerful. And then you get into it and you're like, oh, this is to do this right. Like there's no way I want to launch this without like thinking through this for more months, but I want to add that spice to my talk. So let's do it. And that's kind of the pitfall, is like wanting to add spice to your talk, but really it's like a facade. Although, Apple, they freaking, they show us stuff all the time that we can't have for a year. So part of me is like, give yourself some slack. But I love when like OpenAI, they tell you something new is out and it's out. You can use it, which is so awesome. And it inspires me to also do that. Like what movie? The Wonka movie. I don't know. Maybe they've been teasing it forever, but I just saw the teaser like a month ago or something. And they're like, oh yeah, it's going to be like dropping in the next month. And I'm like, oh, sick. Like that. It just makes it so much more pleasurable of a like tease experience. So yeah, I want to do that. I'm ashamed that I didn't do that with Wiretap. Thing about Wiretap is like, there's so many things, and Nuxt DevTools are not next. They are pushing the envelope, like, and that's kind of like inspiring me, like, oh, maybe I should push the envelope in that direction or farther. So they have like most JavaScript dev tools aren't that novel or great or even that useful. Like I have Vue and React dev tools and they don't give you a ton, but Nuxt gives you like this insane level of visibility. Where's Mutation Playground? I'm surprised they're not selling it better. They literally have like an interactive dependency graph in like rendered in 3D of your whole app, of all the component dependencies. And like, look at this. It's just so powerful. So yeah, I want Wiretap to be awesome. And my initial implementation of it, I just didn't think it was the most awesome thing. And I mean, I want it to be the thing that like this is a fun thing. Wow, nice. I want it to be something that makes your Livewire development experience a breeze. And to do that, I need to test the crap out of it and make sure it's actually solving all the problems everybody runs into and whatever. It's a big project that I'm not focusing on right now, but I will focus on it at some point and it will happen. It'll be great. And I'm sorry. So that's a long-winded answer. Hey, Kale, do you encounter more errors now like Livewire encountered corrupt data? I'm having a nightmare right now in V2. Oh, that doesn't happen nearly as much in V3 because of one thing that I did in V3. So when you have like a payload, like maybe there's a payload here that we can look at. So when Livewire initially loads, this is so stupid. What's this thing? This is like I'm just not going to pause on exceptions. So yeah, like let's go Livewire first, get like the first component on the page. If there is a component on the page. I don't think there is a component on that page. That shouldn't throw an error, and it does. I'm sorry about that. Livewire.first. Yeah, okay. So you get that, and let's get the instance of that and the snapshot. So every Livewire component has a snapshot from the server. And what I did in V2, so it has this checksum that makes sure that all this doesn't change between requests. But here was a tough thing in Livewire in the past, is when you JSON parse this into JavaScript, it changes the order of certain arrays and things. So then when you send it back to PHP and rechecksum, the checksum hash breaks. So I did a bunch of logic to make that work, but there's still times where stuff like that happens. So in V2, you get that corrupt payload exception because those checksums don't match. But in V3, what I end up doing is I keep the actual just string of raw JSON in memory. So I don't know where it is. Snapshot JSON, maybe? Snapshot. Is it going to give me all the properties? Snapshot encoded. Yeah. So this is the straight up, like perfectly maintained string that JavaScript doesn't modify at all. And then it goes back to the server. So you very rarely you only run into the corrupt payload exceptions if it's literally corrupt, like if somebody actually messed with it. So that doesn't happen almost at all anymore. Yeah, well, I don't know. I'm sorry. I don't know what GTAVI is, unfortunately. Hey, from Guinea. Cool. Welcome to the stream. Yeah, Hatzik or Hotseek. Hotseek. You hear that baby screaming? Poor Hannah. We're hanging out. We're having fun, and there's a baby screaming in her face. GTA 6. Yeah, right. When is GTA 6 coming out? GTA 6. Release date. Are you saying because it's... Oh, yeah, wow. There you go. Oh, man. Yeah, this is like Cyberpunk or those like really big, huge things that you know, they say it's going to be a few years because they just bit off a massive chunk. Like, I think it was that way with Zelda, too. Are you all into framework development, or are you planning to make some project or client work to feel the power of TallStack? Well, so I've been doing a lot of work on the Livewire docs site, and it's becoming much more of an app. Like when you're logged in, you have like a billing portal and obviously payments. I track like progress and associate it with your account. I manage your like code repository invites and yeah, all the payment flow and a bunch of things like that. And so that has kind of been my using the TallStack in a real application, and that has been great. And now I'm working on so the way I kind of get like scratch that itch is, okay, this doesn't work at all. Oh, dang it. Why is that? I merged something from someone, and hopefully I think it's just a yeah, whatever. It's just a composer refreshy thing I got to do, dump autoload or something. But the date, oh, dang it. I just closed the, hopefully you're still on this stream, but I just closed the YouTube live streaming thing. So come back because I used a shortcut key. Yeah, sorry, what was I saying? We were talking about using tall stack in real life scenarios. So I kind of get that itch with this, which has been fun. And I've been having all sorts of thoughts with project structuring when I've been working on this that I'm excited to like think about, and maybe some Livewire 4 changes. And then the data tables courses and stuff like that give me a decent amount of interaction with like real apps. But yeah, I don't do client work. But actually we do have partners. So we did launch a new site here. And the pricing's a lot better now. So if anybody's interested, it's like $7.50 a month. We don't actually say the pricing on here, but if you just fill this out, we have a partners program of like companies who use Livewire, and we give them basically unlimited support within reason. And Jason handles a lot of that, but they do bubble up to me at times. Like there's one right now that somebody needs something, and so I'm working on that for them. And sometimes we'll like pull down the app and work on it, whatever. So that's how I get sort of that. That's where I get that kind of client work stuff. To obviously it helps clients, but it helps me realize like big companies and small companies who really depend on this stuff every day, the things that they need. So yeah, it's like $7.50 a month. I don't think there's any commitment anymore, and it's basically unlimited support. So if you guys need that for your company, go sign up here. Yeah. So that's the client stuff. Big fan. Really appreciate the work you do. Thanks, Ahmad. The goat. I am not the goat, but maybe I'm like a, what's a baby goat called? Baby goat name is a kid. Oh, I knew that. I'm a kid. Maybe a kid. Ooh, Hassan is in the house. Hello, Hassan. We are chilling out. What is this? Give me some warning. The stream's bitrate is lower than the recommended. Whatever. So, yeah. All right. So let me ask you guys a question. Let me get your opinion on something. So if you have... Okay. New file. Let's make this Blade file. Change language mode to Blade. Okay. You're in a Livewire component here. And maybe it's a form or something. I don't know. Like I hit this with, let's just do Xchart because that's the one I hit it with, I think. Or let's say filter products. Because I was doing this with the data tables, but I've hit this a few times. So if you have like a public property called like selected products or something like this, and then you have another one called like all products, and let's just say that this is an array for the product IDs, and let's say all products is like key value or something like 1 some product, 2 other product, like this kind of thing. And now you have this filter products component that should show you like a drop down where you can select multiple products. It should show you all of these products. You should be able to select multiple of them and get them in this array here. Hey, Eldon, how's it going? So how do you do this? If this was like plain Blade, then you would just pass in like all products, and that would just be a PHP property. And that would be simple. And you can actually do that. That's fine. And then inside filter products, so let's say that this is, so this one will be like, this will be Livewire component. Okay. I keep trying to save this file that doesn't exist. And then this is filter products or something like that. You can do props, all products. So now you get that in PHP. And then maybe you have like a UL or something. And then for each all products as product. And for each. And then inside here, you have your LI and whatever, product, something. I guess a better example, I don't know, we're here, we're doing it. you have an input type like checkbox, and then you want the value of this, like, because I guess the IDs are keys here, so it'd be like this. You say like value is equal to ID. Okay, and then you might have a label like product. I don't know where you would do this. So product. Okay. Oh my gosh, I keep hitting save. It's like a reflex of mine. So here's the blade component. You pass in all products, comes from your Livewire component. You loop through the products with the ID and the name. You have a checkbox with the value of that ID, and then you have product and the name. Okay, so this is fine so far, but you want selected product IDs to be bound to this checkbox. So, you know, you want something like this. All or selected product IDs. Now, you can do this. However, it's not apparent that this is doing that internally. So something that just feels a lot better would be like wire model selected product IDs, right? Pass in all products, wire model to this thing. Now, what do you do here? Okay, there's a handful of different stories. There's the most vanilla, non-magical thing that you could do, which is like, you could basically for each of these inputs, you could say attributes, and that's gonna basically have all the attributes. To be like attributes where starts with, I think, wire colon, something like that. And then it's gonna take this attribute wire model. Every time you do this, it's gonna spit out all those wire models directly onto here. And that's pretty good, actually. Like that's not a bad scenario, to be honest. It's actually pretty decent. But let's list all these stories out. Reselections and server-side searching for options. Example of something I have live in my product. Selections and server-side searching for options. Right, so we're going to get there. Jason Beggs! Jason Beggs is hanging out. Folks, it's Jason Beggs. He's here. We got Joey Ferrugio, Jason Beggs, Adrian. I mean, all of you wonderful people. Hassan, Chris, and all these other friends. I'm not just trying to name I'm not trying to like name a hierarchy here, but I started doing that. Okay. So this is actually a good way to do it. But let's introduce a problem. So this is, yeah, let's say that doesn't work. Happy path, because this is not going to cause you problems. This is very simple, folks. I don't know. Stop caring about the formatting on this thing, Caleb. Nobody cares. I don't know. Yeah, we'll triple it. There we go. Okay, so now we know we got some separation here. Now let's introduce a problem. Let's say that this will be dynamic options. And I think this is what you were getting at, Alex. Alex is referencing a gist, the gist. Oh, you're just saying that's the gist, not that there's a GitHub gist. Okay, that's what Adrian mostly does. That's a good option, let me tell you. Like, if you do this, you're going to be safe and sound because it's very simple. It's blade driven. It's just forwarding wire models onto things it needs. So this is good. I'm glad we're writing this out so that we can be reminded that there are safe ways to do this and that I shouldn't search for some unified field theory that makes everybody's lives harder. Jason Beggs. Oh, I did let Joey in. Yeah, it prompted me and said this is a suspicious user. YouTube just kind of knows that. But I trusted him. It's Jason Beggs. How can you not be happy? He's just a Jason Beggs being a Jason Beggs. Lucifer deed or input wire attributes. Yeah, is that still a thing? Is that a thing? Is that something I built in there? Or I think it's like attributes arrow wire or something, right? Oh, I gotcha. I don't see the gist, Alex. So I don't know if I don't think you can actually post links in here. Like maybe I can enable that or something, but I don't know. Maybe you messaged me. It's possible. But whatever. People, okay, we're live. Just making sure. No, we got to check Twitter here. Make sure we don't have to retweet anything. All right, back to the job at hand. Yeah. All right. Well, let's look at Alex's thing here. Copy that. Whoops. Oh man. Gist. GitHub. This is his gist. Directory, organization, search. All right. Where's the blade? Okay, he's got the stuff. He's doing it right in here. So yeah, I mean, what you're doing is fine. What I'm trying to show people is when you want to take something like this and put it inside a blade component. That's kind of what we're doing right now. So this is simple. Like for a simple thing, don't mess with blade components. Make your life easy. Just write it in line like he did. That's definitely a good way to do it. Okay. So what if we want dynamic options? Like if these change. So in this scenario, if these change server side, this is going to re-render. So got to have these wire keys on here for show. This is going to re-render and it should all work. So that's actually a pretty good option. Why don't I like this option? What's wrong with it? What's the bad thing about this option? I'm not sure. I don't know. It's a good option. All right. Let's try another thing and let's try to make something that is not easy. Okay. Let's say, yeah, what do we say? Let's say that you're doing, this is when it gets gnarly. Let's say that you have some X data here, like selected product ID, null initially. Okay. And then you're still looping through this, whatever, but we don't have like a normal input. Instead, maybe there's like a button. It's like select, well, I guess this is the name of the product or something. Okay. So you don't have an input to wire model to. They have like Alpine, Exxon click, selected product ID. Yeah. Or maybe a better example. Yeah, nope, still not a better example. Okay. Selected product ID equals ID. I don't really recommend this, but whatever. Okay. So we move this into buttons so that we can't just wire model, but you want the experience to still be this wire model. But it's like, where do you put the wire model? Let me just catch up on chat quick. Alex is saying, yeah, the only thing I think that's interesting about mine is that I want to broadcast events and selection is made other components can listen and react to it. I gotcha. I'll be able to reset it when someone else resets the filters. Yep, makes sense. $sign wire missing or so. Well, we're going to get to that. So now you want this wire model experience, but there's no input to just forward wire model onto. So the current solution is like, whoops, forward attributes here. Okay. So that wire model gets shoved onto this div here, but there's nothing for it to wire model to. So that's what X modelable is for. You do X modelable and you do something like selected product ID. And now this is kind of a link where you say, hey, this value here, this key in this Alpine bit, I want that to be synchronized with the value that you wire model in the scope above. And it automatically, basically what this does under the hood is something like this. Wire.selected product IDs. When you forward wire model onto this, it basically does this under the hood. So now you're saying, hey, I have this local piece of Alpine state. I want to make it modelable so that anytime somebody says X model and puts in anything, we make sure that this is bound to this. So anytime this changes, this will make this change. Anytime this changes, this will make this change. Does that make sense? It's a little confusing. It's a kind of a confusing name, and it's definitely a confusing concept because it makes more sense when you look at this side by side, but then it starts to look real weird when you just do this because this is forwarding a wire model onto here, and it's a little hard to keep track of. So, all right, let me ask. I'm going to put a poll in here, and we're going to say, is X modelable too confusing? Because I'm just curious, like, if you even know about the feature, is it clear what it does? Is it simple to use? Does it feel good? Or is it, you know, I don't know. Let it fly. Right. Okay. Utsav. So what about entangle? Yeah. So let's call this one's, I guess it's already dynamic options. This is turned into modelable. X modelable. Oops. And this works. This would work. But let's throw wrenches in it. I guess let's keep exploring other options. This will also break if you rename inside the component. What's Adrian talking about? If you rename what inside the component? So the nice thing about this is you can make this a more generic component and just say value, and then you can wire model something else to it, which is pretty good. And then inside here, this doesn't have to be products. This can be like options. And then here you could say options equals products, you know, and then it's kind of more general. So I definitely think that's a good approach. Adrian, you're going to have to explain yourself a little bit further. So this is modelable. It works fine. Let's do entangle. So I removed documentation for entangle, although I kept it around. And here's why. So this is how you would do this with entangle. You would say selected product ID, entangle, and I forget. So there's a few different ways to do entangle. I don't even remember how to do it like the kind of canonical way. Let's go to the old Livewire docs and find entangle. So yeah, at entangle, show dropdown. But this is depending on a name from above. So what you end up doing instead is, do we show attributes wire? Yeah, so attributes wire model. So something like this. There you go. That's the bit here. So you do this. And you don't need modelable. So here's the problem with this. This gets a little wily. Two problems. It's fine. You don't need this anymore. I don't love it. Entangle has its own problems, but here's the thing. Here's a secret. X modelable under the hood is just an entangle. Like if you look at Alpine, you go to modelable and you look at what it does. It just creates an entanglement between the outer and inner values, which is the same thing that at entangle does, which Livewire entangle. Support entangle. Yeah, so I mean, it's a little bit more involved, but effectively it's the same thing. Alpine.entangle, two getters and setters. So it's effectively the same thing. I think that this is a little bit better of an experience than this, but I could be off on that. The thing that makes this hard is when you add something like .live, it's kind of complicated to get that live to forward into here. Like, do I even support live in here? It's possible that I don't. Is live? Okay, I do support it. But other things, like what if you want to add .debounce? Like that's not going to work. Where with modelable, all that stuff works. It's so much more simple. So that's why I don't like entangle, but entangle is an option. So we're listing it out. Let me catch up here on the chat. So selected product IDs need to be repeated twice inside the component. You need to name it right with the wire model. Yeah, right. You can, well, with you don't have to name it right with X modelable. This can be, yeah, this can just, well, I did name it wrong, I guess. It's IDs with an array. But you can just call it value and then you're good. Because of modelable allows you to kind of use two different names. Nick, you can even listen for some Alpine events. Yeah, that's true. You can do that. I feel like X modelable should be on Livewire docs too. Didn't even know you can use that. Makes sense now. Is it not? It's gotta be. Oh crap. I did it again. What I need to do is open this streaming thing in a different browser like Safari so that I don't keep accidentally. All right, so the poll is in. People say it's too confusing. We have 20 votes. 70% say it's too confusing. Yeah, that's kind of my feeling because it's something that I've been like really excited about and nobody else is excited about. So that usually is a red flag to me that like, okay, like maybe because your brain's like in the sky on this, you think it's awesome, but most people on the ground don't think that. So Ali, hey, how's it going? So let me just make sure that it's modelable. Yeah, so like custom form controls, it is in the docs. If you want to do custom form controls, it shows you like you put this into a nested component, you add modelable here, and then you can forward the attributes and it all works. So there is docs on it. Pretty much everything I'm describing here. Okay, let me catch up. Is this live broadcast going to stay on the channel? Yes. Hatsik, they do stay on the channel. I haven't tried Arc. No, I've heard a lot of good things about it. Privacy stuff, whatever. As I remember, buttons in HTML can have a value attribute. If they are clicked, they could submit its value to the form data. Yeah, that's interesting. My point with the button thing is just to show you, like, this could be a third-party charting library. Who knows? That's really the king salmon, which we'll get to. And also maybe need to add the docs for modelable and also add the blade directive docs. I like your suggestion, Utsoff, on Twitter about the blade directive docs. I agree with that. Especially with script and assets, where before script and assets, there weren't that many blade directives, so I didn't feel the need to document them independently, but I think you're right. Oh, Nick, wish I could have seen your message. I just saw that flash retraction. Where you downloaded wallpapers. Yeah, I bought them in a wallpaper pack at some point. I showed people on the last stream. I don't remember the link or anything. I think Xmodelable is nice, yeah. Okay, Xmodelable is great. People should just make some examples with it. Yeah, I hear you, Nick. Well, that's good perspective. So that's Entangle. I'm personally not a fan of Entangle because Xmodelable does everything Entangle does, just does it better. It's more powerful. It's slightly more efficient. So it's like, why would you use Entangle? So that's why I didn't document it, because I don't want people to get confused. Like, which way do we use? It's like, just use the way that's documented, which is Xmodelable. I kept Entangle around so I didn't break everybody's Livewire 2 apps because Entangle was kind of the way. Okay. I made an example in the dialog panel screencast. Yeah, there you go. All right, so let's explore this further and break it even more. So far for this example, I think we have kind of what we want. Let's go to like charting lib. This is where it gets a little bit crazier. So if we have something like X chart, and then in here we have like data, and then you don't actually need, well, I don't know. I guess you're just, charts don't interact per se. It's more like, I guess if you had filters inside your charts, more like just kind of data one way down. But here's the thing with this. So let's make a quick charting thing. Props, data, you have like a div inside here. You have like a canvas element. I'm just because like chart.js uses a canvas element, so something like that. And then let's say X data, do the simplest thing here. I don't know. Let's do init let chart equal new chart this dot l dot query selector canvas or whatever. Okay, and then you pass in the options like data sets. Okay. And let's just simplify this as pseudocode. Like this just accepts the data that you pass in. Is everybody following this? Under the hood, Caleb is preparing the data table. Yes, also made example in dialog panel. Yes, that's right, Utsoff. And that's why we're doing charting, because I had to make a charting component, and this is what's totally derailing me. All right, so you got chart equals new chart, and now we need to pass data in. What do? Okay, there's a few options. You could do this. You get the data from PHP, and you could do that. And this is great. The thing's going to render, and it's going to look fine. But you have some filter up here, like date range filter, right? that is like, has its own wire model to dates. Okay, filters. So somebody changes the filter, re-renders the component, changes the data. This is changed, but this already rendered. So it is going to change it in the DOM, but it's not going to do anything because we're not looking to just rerun this code. We need to watch data for a change and then update the chart. So what do? We need this data in JavaScript in a reactive way. And this is where things get a little funky monkey. ARIA support examples. Joe, yeah, I don't have like, I mean, you can just use ARIA, you can just add ARIA attributes to whatever you want. But if you're looking for guidance on it, I added a whole accessibility episode in my recent form series. Interesting, Joe, what you think scares you about it. It's kind of not a Livewire thing. Like if you were using inertia and view, it's the same. It's like they're not adding any ARIA attributes for you. It's not really sort of a quote unquote framework concern. When we do our UI library, we're going to add all that stuff for those components, but it's like kind of out of the scope of, there's no like wire dialog or something that adds all the ARIA attributes. That would be like a separate package kind of thing. Okay, so back to this. You want this to be dynamic, but it's static. It's PHP turned into JavaScript this first time. How do we react to the change? It's tricky. So maybe we set data as a public property or something. And then, I don't know, let's do something really gross. Like, I don't know. You're in chart. You could do this. If this was a public property, you could say wire.data. And then you could add like Alpine watch or something. And maybe this would work. And then every time it changes, you do like chart.update, you do like chart.data equals wire.data. And you could do that. And then you need to destroy the chart when it's destroyed, whatever. And you could do this, but you're like depending on this property name from the parent component. And there's no explicitness. Like you didn't pass it in here. So you could have something like name or something, or like data equals data or something. I don't know. Let's just say name. And then name is a property here. And then anytime you do $wire dot, you do this. You'd be like, and that doesn't feel good because you're like, it just definitely doesn't feel good to me. And let's just say that this thing itself is in some script tag somewhere. And it's like alpine.data chart here. And then it's like inside here, it's, what is this going to be? You have like a init here. And then you have all this inside a script tag somewhere. And now you don't have access to the PHP for this. Because here you're just doing chart, right? You don't have access to this thing here. So like, how do you access it? So what I was thinking, I could tell you what I'm doing, Adrian, but it's kind of a dumb approach. Okay, wire model and X modelable. Let's use that approach. So you say wire model data. And then here we have X modelable. And let's just say data. And then here you forward attributes. Okay. I like what you're saying. This is a really important thing, Nick. Good insight. So let me just make sure I'm not missing. Amazing session, Caleb. Kudos out. Thank you, Cobra. Hello to Afghanistan. I'm looking forward to some good report examples. Okay. Just catching up on chat. It's good to add screencast to make Livewire component. Has PDFs, dynamic data from Eloquent. Too much to build myself. Yeah. Okay. Very excited. Hello, Adrian. Are you the key? Yeah, he's a core contributor. Adrian's been around since like day one. So you got yourself X modelable. We're forwarding attributes. We don't need this prop anymore. Data chart. Now inside, so we're saying wire modelable data to, let's call this values. And then inside here, you have a property called values. Set it to an empty array. this should get set when it's initialized. And then we have something like data is this dot values, and then we can watch values for the change, and then we can say data is this dot values, and then chart update. Okay, so this is better. This is good. Here's the problem that I ran into this with, that maybe I just need to fix this problem. The problem that I ran into was the reactivity wasn't working the way I wanted. And this is why. Because when a new request changes the data, it changes wire.data here. When a new request comes in, let me just kind of show you that little part. Merge new snapshot. New request comes in. I basically do this. I get the new data and I reactively change the root key to the new data. So what does that mean? Basically means that $wire.data is being set to new data from the server. And the problem with this is we're resetting that property here. So we actually lose reactivity. Like right now you could watch values for changes, but as soon as that entanglement gets broken, and it's weird. Maybe it's because you're setting it to an object. Maybe it breaks when you set it to a new object, where if you set it to a new primitive value, it doesn't break. But honestly, as I'm talking this out, I should figure out how to fix XModelable in this scenario to preserve reactivity. All right, let me show you one more example of what I've been dreaming about, and then you can tell me that it's a bad idea. So this is what I'm dreaming about. No more XModelable. You forward wire model onto something like this. And now inside Alpine, you can just do this. You could say this dot model dot get, this dot model dot get, and then all the reactivity is totally preserved. You don't have to entangle two values. It's literally accessing the value from Livewire, and then you have all these opportunities to do cool things like model dot watch, and then just have the watch callback right in here. Which I think feels really clean. You can set it explicitly, this.model.set. We can have named modelables. So you could be like wire model.something equals something or foo. Then you could say this.model.something.get. And now you can get named modelables and set named modelables and watch them. And then in my perfect world, also, if you have an input deeply nested, like you have an input element, oh my gosh. You have an input element, you could say X model and then just model and then bind it to the wire model X model thing. So this is my like future that I would love, is everything just becomes $model. We're not setting a property and entangling it or X modeling it. You're just using this and it's just finding the closest X model or wire model and letting you get and set the value. Yeah, Chris, you're right. I got a gut check on that because I ran into this when I was creating a pulse card, and that's why I got hung up on using XModelable. So I need to make sure it wasn't user error. And honestly, I'm glad that we talked about all this because now I can remind myself that we already kind of doubled down on XModelable. I should just kind of make it work. But I can't help myself from thinking that this is so much more pure internally, because when you're entangling, you have the JavaScript from the Livewire component, and then you have your local one. Like, let's just go back to some kind of like modelable or entangle. You now have, if you have a huge data set, you have it here and here. And then there's wiring to make them synchronize to each other. So there's 1 point of extra memory. It's double the memory because there's 2 of that same variable, and then tons of complexity because we're keeping the 2 in sync. Where when you're just accessing $model.get, you're just accessing the thing directly. There's no extra step. Downside of model is that it means the component is only usable inside a parent. True. So I guess the unified field theory of model is something like this, like values, this dot model with a default value of like empty array. So if there's no X model or Y model, then you're seeding this, and then you can just depend on values. But then you're kind of back to modelable, you know? But I hear you, because there's a lot of times I make a blade component that is optionally bindable. So for example, if you have a popover, simple drop down, you generally don't need to use any X model because the button inside of it's going to open it, clicking away is going to close it, but maybe you want to manually close it, so you optionally add X model is open or something. So it's optional. And in that scenario, yeah, you would need to do this. And now we're back to the entangling. Or something that internally Alpine could be really smart and convert this property into get values. I guess like something like that. I don't know. And then set values. But there would need to be like internal state. And yeah, something like that. I don't know. So you're right, Chris. Chris is right. That's why Chris is here. Because Chris is right. I don't know why we lost all the syntax highlighting there. Maybe we never had it. I broke something, but whatever. This thing. Okay. X model allows you to nest it or use it on its own. It's true. What if you just set model on the data to set the default? Yeah, right. Yep. X data model foo. Oh, that's pretty interesting. Could set the default if you want to use it either way. Yeah, I wonder how that, I don't know about that, man. It's possible. That's kind of interesting. It's a different way of using it. That's interesting, Chris. Interesting. But that's weird. But I hear ya. Like, how does this even work? A key in a JavaScript thing can't be an object or anything. You know? So you're thinking just like a magic string. Yeah, that kind of breaks it. It feels better when you're inside X data, because you're just saying, you know, it's a magic string, but you don't normally add this dot inside of these expressions. However, in here, you're never using magics without saying this dot. So then people would think to do this, and that's impossible, and that'd be a little weird. So a little funky, but it's an interesting thing. I see what you're saying. Yeah, Chris, it's interesting. Yeah. Maybe set the value when you don't want X model. Alpine would have to look for the prop and hook it up. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out the best thing to do, and I feel like is there a way for X modelable? Maybe. Yeah, I don't know. And I should say, there's actually all sorts of problems with using this. It's really clean, but I went to actually do, remember that input element I showed you? Like if you have input, X model, this is actually currently, I can't figure out how to not make this an infinite loop. Because it's like, this will try to find the closest X model, which is this, and then it just loops forever. It's getting itself infinitely. So like model needs to reference something above it, but then you lose the ability to do attributes and then reference model on the same element, you know? So it's complicated. So model has its own problems. I actually did an entire write-up on it. Oops. Yeah, this is the GitHub gist for the entire API proposal, which I'll put here. I can't paste a URL. I don't think, can I paste a URL as like the man? Yeah. So if you're interested, this is my big proposal, and I list out all the shortcomings and blah, 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 blah. And honestly, after this stream, I think it's going to go nowhere for me. Yeah, I think I'm not going to do anything with it, because this has shown me that like, this is fine. Do the where starts with stuff. Like do that. It's so easy. Drive it out with PHP. It's so simple. And then modelable is fine when you need to use modelable. But let's maybe, I guess there's still, here's another hole. Let's find the modelable thing here. And let's do modelable with dynamic options. Okay. So here's something. This is good and easy because this is a really lightweight piece of data. But let's say that you need to access this value in JavaScript. Like you can't use Blade for some reason, like it's a charting library or something. And let's say you have to do like template X for product in all products. And then inside here, you know, whatever, I guess this is your whole LI. So we're just putting this product. I don't even remember how do you do a key? Wow. A little rusty, huh? Something like this. Okay. And then here it's like index. We don't need wire key. Be like key index. And then select product ID equals ID. And then this is like X text product. Okay. So we've converted this to pure Alpine. And there's benefits here. A benefit to me is that this, like if we eventually introduce something like static, where I really tried hard on this one and came up dry, but if you have something that doesn't need to be blade dynamic and we could just prevent it from being sent over the wire a bunch of times, or you just want to keep that purity, or you need to interact with all that data in JavaScript, how do you do that? How do we get all products? I guess we could have named modelables. So instead of something like this, you have wire model selected product IDs, and then you have like wire model.products, or I think it would look like this, even though the double colon feels a little bit weird. You would do like all products. And then inside here, you have one modelable, two modelables. So this would be X modelable products like this. And then this would be products or something. And let's just make this selected because it's an internal one. So I just want to show you that they can be different names. So then here we'll say products starts out as an empty array. We X modelable it as a named modelable. And now we can just say products. So is this the solution? Do people hate this? Anybody? Bueller? Let's see what people say. Okay. Would it be possible to have an implicit modelable though? Like if you don't set it up and the X data doesn't contain a model prop, Alpine would just link it in for you. That'd be interesting. I think sometimes a combination of Livewire and Alpine. I agree. Are confusing. I know. I'm trying to come up with something that's not confusing. And I don't know what to do. Because I want to do stuff like this, but it's like, Speak to me. I'm at a loss. Looks fine to me at first glance. All right. Let's throw a poll up. Okay, starting the poll and grabbing some tea. So just think real hard. Tell me what I should do. Yeah. So something like view does vModel as an alias of. Right. So that's actually what Alpine does. Yeah. Oh, okay. So this is what you're saying. That's a good point. Let's explore that. because this is an option. Yeah, let's take a look at that. Which one is my question? Oh, did I conflate? Okay, is name audibles a good idea, or should we find greener pastures? Sorry. Yeah, that is a very poorly worded poll question. Basically, say yes if good, no if bad, and we should find greener pastures. That's maybe to clarify. Sorry about that. Yeah, so get those votes in if you're following this. I'm coming in late here, so I don't feel like I have... Oh, Mark, how's it going? Interface between Alpine and Live. Yeah, it's tricky, Mark. So tricky because they're two different languages. That's why this is hard. Not multiple dynamic ones. So Ali, you like modelable, but you don't like the named ones, like having this. But it's like, otherwise, how do you get the things in a JavaScript in a nice reactive way? You know, it's like you almost want to do this, like xbind products is equal to wire.allProducts, you know? That's kind of what you want. Yeah. But then it's like, wait, but we have wire model here. Or maybe we just force people into this paradigm where it's like, use X model $wire dot. You know, it's like, you want to get into, you want to do JavaScript? Do JavaScript. Pure Alpine. You know? Yeah, hard to know. I don't know. All right, so people are kind of split. There's not a ton of votes, but I'd say people are sort of in favor of the modelables thing and aren't like absolutely overwhelmed by it. So I'll end the poll. Yeah, okay. So kind of back to, well, I'm going to at least list this here as something that's kind of interesting. So if you wanted to do X, you could actually do this, but it's not simple. You have to do, what would you have to do? You'd have to have like X init. It's like alpine.bound. This is secret stuff, by the way. I don't want you using this, but I use it for headless UI. I built it for headless, or for Alpine's headless stuff. You do like alpine.bound, and then I think you just say the name like products, which I don't even know how you would get that in here. Blech, blech. So bad. It'd be like products equals, I don't know. I'm going to list it here for, I'm just going to call this like pure Alpine approach somehow. But let's explore what, I forget who mentioned it, but the more like Vue.js. I introduced modelable because this is so much harder, but let's do it. Views events. Okay. So you have like wire model here. And let's just explain this without the extra stuff. So wire model, selected products. And now inside here, you have, this is what you would have. This is how you would do it in Vue. If you want to update this, you would do something like this. When selected changes, so you'd be like this dot watch selected, and then you would do like this dot dispatch. What would it be called? This would not be change. Would it be change or input? I don't remember. With new value kind of thing. And then when this changes internally, it dispatches an event on the DOM element and it gets picked up by the closest X model or wire model and does that. And honestly, folks, I think this actually works because I think I built it that way. to kind of mirror Vue. But here's the problem with it, is getting the value down. Because in Vue, vModel internally does like a binding of something like this, selected product IDs. And I think it binds like, it's like vbind value, right? So I would do an internal like xbind value and then have some way to get the value out and watch the value. So again, if it's like alpine.bound this.l and then value, and then let's just say that this is not legal syntax. I'm just sort of describing how you might do it in a like verbose way. Now you watch the outer value, and then when it changes, you set selected to that new value internally. So you set up these getters and setters. This is how Vue does it. So Vue.js vModel custom component or something. I don't know. So component vModel. So yeah, right. So vModel under the hood is bind value down, listen for an input event, up. So if you have, yeah, okay, custom input. Okay, so it extends to model value and update model value, and then here's it in action. But this is a lot. Like it, to me, is not clean at all. Now vModel works perfectly. And then, okay, if you want to define props, model value, define emits, get, you return that prop, set, you emit that event on value, and now you can just vModel to value. vModel arguments, you can have named models, and those are, the props are the name, and then the event is the colon and the name, which is pretty clean. Multiple vModel bindings, you can have multiple of those. You define multiple events, you define multiple getters and setters, handling vModel modifiers. So if you have .capitalize, how does that come through? It comes through as a prop called model modifiers, and then you get access to that, and you can do whatever you want to do with that, I guess. Like use that to change, you know, it's a lot. Like this is Xmodelable does all this for you. That's why I like it. X modifiers for vModel with arguments. Oh, like if you have, okay, so that's a whole vModel first name uppercase. So you have first name modifiers. Last, you know, this is a lot. So that's an exposition or exploration into how Vue does their vModel stuff. And it just, to me, is such an unpleasant experience. When I was a pure Vue developer, I would use that and I hated it. So yeah, I'm thinking maybe we can just have a global state manager like Vue Pinya. Yeah, gotta run. Thanks, Chris. Input to trigger wire model. Don't know Adrian. This is a classic Adrian. Adrian says like cryptic small messages. I don't understand them. Then he explains them, and they're generally a good idea. Yes, I read first line on Livewire 2 docs. So I don't know. We don't have to beat this dead horse. So this is like kind of just an exploration on like all the trade-offs of all these different approaches. And I'm still kind of searching for the golden goose. And honestly, I've already gone down the path of modelable. I should probably just stick to my guns, fix that little reactivity thing that isn't great. Maybe add named modelables at some point. I don't know, but all right, I'll like let that up. And what are we at? We're about an hour and a half or something on this stream. Yeah, which is good. So we can be done with that, and we can just hang out a little bit and sign off. What about nested Livewire components for Livewire filter products with reactive property? That is actually a pretty good idea. Yeah, honestly, a nested Livewire component is nice. The only problem with a nested Livewire component is this. If you have, I guess it's a little extra overhead, but sometimes it saves you overhead. It's a little extra complexity and overhead. That's why I hesitate to like push people towards that. But in the case of like a dialogue, if you have like a Livewire dialogue, you need a slot. And there's no slots in Livewire components. And I could add slots, but it's not an easy thing at all. And there's all sorts of questions about it. Like inside this slot, how do you access state from inside here? Maybe it's like component and then some property. But then, it's not simple. So I've hesitated to do it. But it really makes using Livewire for these reusable components across your apps kind of difficult. That's something like I wrote on my list for like real big final things, like Livewire 4 stuff, is slots for Livewire components. So, all right. Thank you for entering the brain space of me and my life and trying to solve hard problems in Livewire and make it a dream to use, but it's hard and I'm still searching for the golden goose. It's heavier. It's definitely heavier, Nick. 100%. The only way that it's lighter is that when you have a nested blade component and you re-render this component, it's going to re-render all of this. When you have a nested Livewire component, I'm trying to think, if it's a reactive property, it might re-render it anyway. But if it's not nested reactive, it won't re-render it. It's like an island. So yeah, I generally push people to just like stick with blade components until it's a problem. So yeah. All right. Well, thanks everybody for hanging out. Yeah, Isaac, thank you for thanking me. You're welcome for it. Yeah, life's hard, but appreciate everybody hanging out on this Friday, this beautiful Friday. Sun is shining, all the snow is melting. And yeah, the snowman has toppled in the backyard. And maybe I'll see you next Friday. Peace out. Peace ya out ya.